Today, we're looking at the deepening political crisis in Turkey, where President Erdogan's government has launched an unprecedented crackdown on opposition figures, including the arrest of elected mayors and legal campaigns against some of the country's most popular politicians. This is happening against the backdrop of an economic meltdown and rising discontent, which have left Turkey more divided than ever before. In recent weeks, Turkish authorities have moved to detain 3 elected mayors from the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, or HDP, which the government accuses of having links to the banned Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. Turkey had been fighting PKK since 1978, only to end recently in May 2025. These arrests are not isolated events. Since 2019, dozens of HDP mayors have been removed from office, replaced with government-appointed trustees, and in some cases imprisoned. The 3 latest arrests, affecting mayors in Siirt, Igdir, and Baykan, have sent a chilling message to Turkey's Kurdish minority and the broader opposition. Winning elections doesn't guarantee you get to govern. The Interior Ministry justified the arrests by alleging the mayors had aiding a terrorist organization. But supporters and human rights groups say these accusations are part of a long-running campaign to neutralize the HDP as a political force. The HDP has consistently denied that it operates as a proxy for the PKK, and many observers note that the party has often been the 3rd largest bloc in Turkey's parliament, drawing millions of votes. These arrests came just as Turkey's parliament was processing requests to lift the parliamentary immunity of 25 lawmakers from opposition parties, mostly from the HDP, but also including MPs from the main secular Republican People's Party, or CHP, and the Workers' Party of Turkey. Removing lawmakers' immunity opens them up to prosecution, imprisonment, and political bans. For critics, this is all part of the same pattern, using the courts to sideline political opponents ahead of key elections. If all this sounds familiar, it's because Turkey's most famous example of judicial targeting is the case of Ekrem İmamoğlu, the popular CHP mayor of Istanbul. İmamoğlu stunned Erdogan's party in 2019 by winning control of Turkey's largest city. When the result was annulled under questionable grounds, he won the rerun by an even bigger margin, humiliating Erdogan and cementing his own status as a potential future president. In December 2022, a court sentenced İmamoğlu to over 2 years in prison and imposed a political ban over comments he made calling election officials. Although he remains free while his appeal is underway, the verdict sent shockwaves through Turkey's opposition and sparked mass protests. Many saw the case as a preemptive strike to block him from challenging Erdogan in future elections. The timing of these prosecutions is impossible to ignore. In May 2023, Turkey held one of its most closely contested presidential elections in recent memory. After 20 years in power, Erdogan faced a united opposition that ran a strong campaign focused on restoring democracy, ending the erosion of institutions, and repairing the economy. Despite enormous advantages, control over state media, access to public resources, and a vast patronage network, Erdogan was forced into a runoff for the first time. He eventually won, but the margin was much narrower than in previous contests, exposing deep dissatisfaction with his leadership. Economic hardship played a huge role in that dissatisfaction. Turkey's inflation soared to more than 85% in late 2022, eroding the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. The Turkish lira has lost around 80% of its value against the dollar over the past 5 years, driving up the cost of imports. Rents and grocery prices have become unbearable for many households, and youth unemployment remains stubbornly high. Erdogan's insistence on lowering interest rates despite soaring inflation has baffled economists and spooked investors, leaving the central bank with little credibility. This economic pain, combined with the government's increasingly authoritarian policies, has left Turkey more polarized than ever. Many analysts argue that the arrests of Kurdish mayors and the prosecution of figures like İmamoğlu are designed to eliminate any serious electoral threat to Erdogan's rule. If popular opposition politicians can be banned, jailed, or forced out of office, the ruling party can control the political arena no matter how frustrated voters become. It's also worth noting that Turkey's democracy has undergone a fundamental transformation. After the failed coup attempt in 2016, Erdogan expanded the powers of the presidency, effectively sidelining parliament and consolidating control over the judiciary, media, and security forces. While elections continue to be held, the conditions are increasingly tilted in favor of the incumbent. Opposition leaders face legal harassment, pro-government media dominate the airwaves, and civic space has shrunk. International observers and human rights groups have repeatedly condemned these tactics. The European Union has called the prosecutions politically motivated and inconsistent with democratic norms. Human Rights Watch has accused Turkey of weaponizing terrorism laws to intimidate Kurdish politicians and silence dissent. Yet, Ankara has brushed off these criticisms, framing them as foreign interference. Inside Turkey, the climate of fear has grown. Opposition lawmakers now face the threat of losing their seats and their freedom. Mayors who won elections with overwhelming popular support have been replaced by unelected administrators loyal to the central government. Even voters who cast ballots for change are left wondering whether their choices matter at all. Despite this, opposition figures like İmamoğlu continue to be symbols of hope for millions. His victory in Istanbul showed that Erdogan's machine can be defeated at the ballot box, at least under the right circumstances. But whether he will be able to run for higher office remains an open question. If the courts uphold his conviction and political ban, one of Turkey's most charismatic leaders will be removed from the race, depriving the opposition of a unifying figure with cross-party appeal. For Erdogan, this strategy carries risks. While repression can weaken rivals in the short term, it can also deepen public resentment, fuel social divisions, and undermine economic confidence. Investors are already wary of Turkey's unpredictable policies and the erosion of rule of law. As inflation persists and living costs rise, more Turks, especially younger generations, are questioning whether the status quo can deliver stability and prosperity. Ultimately, the arrest of HDP mayors, the targeting of opposition lawmakers, and the sentencing of Ekrem İmamoğlu are not isolated incidents. They are part of a broader effort to control Turkey's political landscape as Erdogan navigates economic turmoil and a fracturing coalition of support. Whether this approach will secure his power or trigger an even bigger backlash remains to be seen. So the next time you read a headline about another Turkish mayor being arrested or an opposition leader being prosecuted, remember that this is not just about one politician or one party. It's about the fundamental question of whether Turkey will remain a democracy where elections mean something, or whether the outcome will always be decided long before the votes are ever cast.